Welcome to Anchoring the Consciousness of Oneness World Summit. Today we have Adam Schomer with us to share his wisdom surrounding the concept of oneness that he's gained from his own spiritual pursuits. Adam is a documentary film and TV director and producer and owner of I2I Productions. He's known for going to extreme lengths to follow stories that empower us. Adam's feature documentaries include The Highest Pass in 2012, The Polygon in 2014, One Little Pill in 2015, Women of the White Buffalo in 2020, and the #1 iTunes bestseller and Netflix hit Heal, and that was in 2017. Adam also created and directed the stunning docuseries The Road to Dharma this year in 2020, and its companion online course for living a life of freedom. In addition to the film, he's a certified master sattva yoga teacher and has been leading meditations for over 11 years. His mission is to unite through wisdom and entertainment. So thank you, Adam, so much for being here with us today. I'm excited to have you, and this is such a treat for our viewers.
Thank you. I just show up just to hear my own resume. That's what I like to just be reminded of what's happened in the last 10 years of my life. Oh my God. No, really happy to be here, especially with your audience, that's so sincerely seeking, inner peace and freedom. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it must be wild just to hear all of these things, and you're like, oh, that's me. And I did all these things, and I'm just like, in watching, I mean, I've seen your Heal documentary a few times, and a lot of people, I'm sure, have seen that a few times. There's so many well-known teachers in there, and there's so much wisdom, but your most recent work, The Road to Dharma, the docuseries of the pilgrimage to the 4 sacred temples, led by Anand, the Himalayan master. So you guys went into the Himalayas on motorcycles, and some people had never been on motorcycles before. Now, I saw the clips of the cliffs, and the drop, and that looked absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Like the first few episodes, I was like, this is insanity. Like, what are they doing?
That's a normal reaction. Like, I was just talking to someone the other day. It's like, wait a second. I'm feeling scared these first 2 episodes, and it just depends on who you are and your level of trauma or etc. Maybe that really scares you, or you think we're a little stupid for doing it. Because the truth is, it's dangerous. Riding a motorcycle is dangerous. Riding a motorcycle in India is dangerous. Things are coming at you, meaning it takes a lot of awareness. It's like an endurance sport. It's like any kind of crazy sport in that way.
Yeah.
And then doing so, going into the Himalayas adds another level with the cliffs and the weather. And in our case, the monsoon rain stayed a month later that we didn't plan on. So it sometimes appears to people like, what are they doing? Especially there's someone that hadn't ridden really before. They trained 3 weeks before. They had seen that I had done that in the Highest Pass. And like, if you can do it, I can do it. I think that's beautiful for people to pop their bubble, try something radically new. Of course, you have to be safe, and like we're telling people how to ride in India. But the truth is, if you don't do something a little out of your bubble, evolution and learning can't occur. So what looks stupid to one person for someone else is like, well, freedom is incredibly important to me, so I'm willing to risk my physical life on some level to go with a master to these really amazing temples, as you mentioned, these 4 sacred temples, really 5 if you count Rishikesh, because Rishikesh is where we start. And
Right.
That's like the birthplace of yoga. So you end up, what I hear is you end up going from, wow, it's a little ridiculous, to absolute awe and recognizing the courage that you have in yourself that you're seeing in somebody else.
Yes, absolutely. It becomes less and less shocking and more moving, because there's so many beautiful messages. Like, as I was telling you before we came on, I've already watched the whole thing 4 times, and I'm going to watch it again. I mean, I just am, and I'm going to make all of my family watch it and all of my friends. There's so many beautiful golden nuggets, throughout the whole thing. And what I really love is the idea of the Shiva Temple of Death, of radical freedom, and that was the first stop.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about here. It's like, if you want to be free, then you have to put down, you have to step out of the known. And outside of the known is really uncomfortable.
Really, really uncomfortable. Um, and episode 3 is where it does start to kind of settle in more, and get deeper. And we focus on a couple characters or 3 characters per episode. The first 2 are setting up the stakes, and there's plenty of wisdom in there. But a lot of people, you're caught in both worlds of the adventure of it and the wisdoms being layered at the beginning of these quantum leaps that we have to take, of stories that bind us from doing things that are so that we want to do. And then in episode 3, yeah, as we get to the first sacred peak of Kedarnath, which is 12,000 feet is where the temple is. It's all about Shiva. It's all about, you can say death, but death to the ego. And there's a real, none of this is spoiler alerts, right? Because like you said, you've watched it 4 times. You're taking it for the experience that you normally
Right.
can't have. Who gets to India on motorcycles, much less these peaks? We're walking by people that come on these pilgrimages from India, people that are 80 years old, bare feet, just, I've waited my life to come to this peak, like these are really sacred places on the material level. People really come here so sincerely. So when some of the riders and such, start complaining, up at this big about, oh, the beds are wet and all that, it's really a perfect opportunity for our guide, for Anand, to come in and remind people why we're here. It's to get past the petty cravings and aversions of the ego. And we have to be really like watchdogs of our own mind, and how quickly we drop what's amazing in front of us for this craving or aversion that I want of extreme comfort, or I don't want to feel a little cold or tired or out of breath. You can't live your life seeking comfort. You just can't. Like, you can, and it's called America, but or like, meaning like they set it up that way as if that would be freedom, when you're totally taken care of in total comfort. And it's just not true. And that's what that's a part. It's like the blowing away of that idea of freedom being circumstances are perfect, being choice to do whatever I want. And it's so great that we start at that peak. That's the first place, because it's like, let me blow your ideas away. Likewise, that this is some journey to just kind of, which we say every episode, right, in the little opener, like, you don't come here to feel better. You come on this journey to transcend.
Yeah.
You don't come here to feel better. If you look at your life that way, you're not coming here just to feel better. You're coming to transcend. Okay, well, let's shift our perspective. This is a pilgrimage.
Absolutely. And every person who is alive in a human body goes through all kinds of things. We suffer or we feel pain, right? The suffering part is the choice, but the pain is just going to happen. It's our destiny points. And
Yeah.
so if we choose to look at this as the free will experiment, and we're all here to learn, and we're learning, and how exciting it is that we get to have all of these different experiences to take back to wherever in the world we're in the universe that we're going,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, it's that mind shift that has to happen. Otherwise, there will be suffering, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the cool thing, is we have power, right? That's what you're speaking to. We have the choice. That's where we end up in the whole thing, is realizing how much responsibility we have to our own freedom, and how much it is in our own power. And sometimes we slough off and don't step into that power. That's like, not to jump ahead too far, but episode 7 jumps into stepping into personal power. And it's not all good hippy dippy new agey stuff. Like, sometimes you got to put your foot down and tell somebody when they're out of line, be it a friend or whatever. Like, hey, I'm not going to sit here and listen to your ego going and going and going. Maybe
Right.
you have friends. Sometimes friends. Okay, it's fine if something's triggering, right? And okay, we listen to it once, but if a week later we're stuck in the same story, someone's got to say, hey, you're stuck in that
Yeah.
story. I'm just not going to sit here and take it and listen to your stuff. Feel free. I was walking with a friend once, and I'm like, feel free to keep telling that story like a victim, but I've heard it, for a week now, and it's not really serving. But if you want to keep saying it, that's cool. I'm just going to enjoy the beach, but I'll walk with you. No problem. Sometimes we have to be a little bit of, a little dickish, if you will, and just tell it like it is. And like, because you're my friend, I don't want you to stay in that story, nor do I want me to be taken down in that. And that's, we do have that responsibility, I think.
Yeah, and and I love that, because I talk about this a lot with my own clients. in self-compassion, right? But this is
Yeah.
also compassion for everyone around you. And when we're putting things out into the universe like that, we're actually committing a violence on some level,
Sure.
and this because we are all connected. And the fact that we're all connected, if we are even thinking negative thoughts about ourselves because we're part of everything, then on some level, that's impacting other people. And I'm not saying, oh, you have to be in the best mood all the time and stuff your emotions and things like that, because the only way out is through. But
Yes.
being there, and finding that place to sit and complain so you don't have to step out of your box.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it. What do you think?
Absolutely. We have to be very vigilant to see if we're stuck in complaining or stuck in victim, or if someone we love is in that space, because it's it's hard to transcend if we stay there. And yeah, how if we truly want to evolve, we have to come to terms with, like, this is how it is right now. This is the circumstance, or this is how I'm feeling, or this is what's going on. And then if someone's really on the path on the deeper level, then inquire as to, well, why am I so triggered by this? Where am I stuck? And you start unpeeling, well, what's that? And what's that? And what's that? And you look. I find that to be supremely helpful to understand kind of the root of the constant thought, the constant fear of future, worry of the future, or, guilt from the past. Like, what is that? Like, oh, wow, is that still like the program of wanting to do good, or prove self, and to keep recognizing it, right? Like you're saying, like, we don't have to be do-gooders because we're on a journey. Like, we don't have to be perfect. Like, we have to forgive ourselves. But the awareness and the principles, we hold ourselves to the awareness and principles to keep looking and watching ourselves and each other. And it is important to support each other, even if you have to be a little harsh. We need that reflection. We need that community sangha. We need what you're doing, even a Zoom like this and someone hearing it, it's, oh yeah, I'm just getting reminded. Oh, I watched this show and I watched 15 people, eight riders, eight passengers, and the passengers are going through it just as much as anybody, like the extreme trust that they're going through. Hopefully, why I wanted to share is to inspire someone in your own life. Now, you're not on that journey, but you might be in COVID, or you might be dealing with someone that's ill, or some finances, and that's just as difficult and scary a thing to practice surrender, or to practice overcoming the mind, these peaks of Kedarnath, or to practice being in silence, like Tungnath, episode 5, when things
Yeah.
are crazy. Can we still pause and not act always from fear? Can we wait and wait and wait until maybe we're back into a space of love, and then act? These are fun games to play with our lives.
Yes, I know. I agree. So, it reminded me of, it's like when I first saw the motorcycles, and then the weather started to happen. It
Yeah.
reminded me of a time when I was a kid, and the only mode of transportation that my dad had was a motorcycle, and it was snowing and sleeting outside, but I still had to go to school. And so he would say, "All right, do not lean left or right, or we'll slide." You know. And so then I realized that I was also in control of what was happening, right?
Yeah.
So I had to trust. I didn't have a choice. And I was also a 12. So I was like really irritated that I had to put a helmet on my head and all that stuff because it was going to mess up my hair. And so to get out, finally I'm off. I'm like, thank God it's over. Take off the helmet, go to look in the little mirror, to fix my hair. And I burned my leg on the muffler thing. It was so hot. Like,
Oh,
and I was like, and it immediately I was like, I'm more worried about the way I look right now
yeah.
than the fact that we just made it here safely, and I can trust myself to be on the back of this bike when it's
Right.
snowing outside, you know.
Right. It's
And
a
so,
great experience to have as a kid, like that. To have to play with the fear and trust that much. That's a really great experience.
yeah, I mean, it's like when you just have to do it. You have no choice.
I
But
I, I want to tell you, I was just a passenger. Last November, I was in India and studying with Anand and a bunch of people, and he just took. There was in between like the summit and something, so there was a day off, and so everyone was going to a temple, and I was going to work. He's like, no, no, come to the temple. Okay, all the cars were full, and he's like, okay, just hop on the back of my bike. And again, I wasn't ready for a trip. I was in sandals. I was in the thinnest Indian pants possible and a t-shirt. And I'm like, will I be okay? He goes, do you want me to take off my boots so that you feel more comfortable? Like just, like I'll go in sandals too, Adam. Don't, you need them. I go, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. But going on the back of his bike because he goes as fast as he damn well can, in no protective gear, no helmet, nothing, right? Through India, for an hour and a half. The first 20 minutes was again, like, I've been through a lot, but it was the same lesson of like, whoa, you got to surrender. Cause like, if you die right now, you're going to die in panic and no one wants to die. That literally has to be my thought process at times. Like, well, I could die. Do I want to die stressed out? And so it's either, kind of die stressed or surrender and be free. It's like really simple little choices. So I just, I went into some mantra to help out. Om Namah Shivaya probably is what I brought in to help transcend the circumstance, and
Yeah.
then just kind of sank into it. And in the end, like a 12-year-old, kind of enjoy the ride, enjoy it, because that's the choice. It's either you enjoy this kind of craziness or you
Yeah.
freak out the whole time. And,
Right.
and by the end, we were like little kids going through water. And I mean, I almost slipped off the bike because like my sandal slipped and I slipped underneath him. He was standing up. We were going through water. I slipped underneath him, like on my back, but I was fine. I didn't fall. So just because we've been on these trips, it's still a constant practice. And I still really honor like that 12-year-old in you that like had to trust, and it takes a little while to get there sometimes.
Yeah.
This is normal. This is normal. Life keeps serving it up. It's fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is just watching you all on the motorcycles and going through the water and all the things
Yeah, crazy.
is really, you know, it, I could feel the panic inside of me. And then like you
We're
said, as
not
you go
and we're not
on,
dramatizing it. Just, people might think, oh,
oh,
you're making it. You can't
no,
capture how scary it is. You
no.
can't. Like, you can't do it justice. So never dramatize. It's scarier than you can see. I promise. It's
Yeah.
scarier than I can make you feel. I can't make it feel as dangerous as it is.
Yeah. I mean, and I totally get that. I can totally see how that is. I mean, just the I mean, we just keep talking about it, but it is wild, because like, and I was like, you when the bus comes, you have to like override them and go past. Otherwise, you're gonna get stuck behind them, and you're just gonna take you forever. And I'm thinking, so what? It's gonna take you forever. Just stay behind the bus. Who cares?
Right. Stay safe behind the bus and go 20 miles an hour and get there in 3 days, And it's like, no, this is a
Yeah.
ride. You gotta overtake and pass. And yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to watch everybody begin to really step into themselves. And who was it? Like, well, I don't want to give everything away, but there was one guy, he's older, and Frank, right? And he said,
Fred. Yes, Fred.
Fred.
That's
And
good.
he said, he was just saying this mantra over and over again: I cannot fall. I cannot fall.
Yeah.
And so I was so inspired by that. I took that mantra and said, I cannot fail. I cannot fail. And every time I say it, I have this big smile on my face. And I've
Oh,
been saying it every day since I heard him say, I cannot fall.
yeah.
And, you know, a lot of times we say, oh, don't you apply the negative to the mantra or the affirmation. No, this is totally fine because this makes me feel really good. And it helped him not fall too.
Yeah, he's a fun one to watch for anyone that's, he's 75, right? And I won't give away a little, his backstory, but it's very inspiring to watch him fall and get back up and fall and get back up, and the courage at that age to reinvent himself. That's really why he's there, is because he realized his identity as a lawyer in Los Angeles, like there was more to life. He had done it, and he realized, oh, this isn't all. There's got to be something more. And I love that at 75, someone willing to kind of let go what they thought and reinvent. I really love that. And Anand really loves kids and really loves older people. And I really get that from him, where he wants to honor someone like Fred that's just so willing at such an old age. Like, so, I've been taught you really help people like that are so willing. You really want to honor it. So like we were doing everything in our power to support Fred, even if it was a little dangerous for him and he was struggling. We did everything in our power to like really support this guy, because he in essence then is supporting the group in a certain way, with his courage, and he's supporting all the viewers that are feeling a little older. So it's like you're just doing it for everyone. It's Sangha. It's really supporting everyone. And Anand is really good like that. He's just a sincere, sweet man. As much as he's harsh and fierce and a rebel, he's also just a really sweet, loving guy,
Yeah. And that really comes through too, of course. But I love what you're talking about in dropping the identity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a mom there, and
Yeah.
so, and just be like, that is the hardest incarnation. So, in the identity that is very difficult to transcend, you know? And
Yes.
so she's like, well, I want to be a brave person, and I want my child to know that, that they can go on and do these things. And I wanted them to know that their mother, is strong.
Yeah.
So, but then at some point she's like, this is dangerous, and I have to be here for my child.
It
And
wa- yeah, go on. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's just, and then watching her overcome that, it was incredible. And the whole identity piece to this, it's just like Fred being a lawyer, and then wanting to drop that, and the willingness, like
Yeah.
they didn't have to have some sort of breakdown or horrible situation happen to them that forced them to change. There was a willingness to do so.
It's a great point, right? That's what we really honor is commitment and willingness. Yeah, you don't have to be at the bottom of the barrel. Sometimes it takes that to wake people up, but that's what the yogic path is, which is saying let's go do the work before we get there. Before we get knocked down, we might not have to have such a harsh awakening if we're already pushing those buttons ourselves. If we're looking for the inner violence that we have kind of lurking beforehand, then we don't have to watch it just come up on its own and really freak us out. So I think that's a big part, is that willingness to go see our darkest shadows, to bring them up, to be able to delete them or know that it's there, to break down our false identities, right? That willingness. So when you step into a pilgrimage of any sort, or just declaring it, that's a beautiful beginning to the process. And with Tiffany, or Yashoda, Tiffany, the mom, who's also named Yashoda, she teaches in Boulder. It was super cool. She didn't even tell her parents that she left to go on this trip. That's kind of how society doesn't really understand, sometimes. But two things we wanted to first feature, make sure that there was a lot of women on the trip, because people think motorcycles and men, less so nowadays, thankfully. And also just recognize that the passengers, even if you don't ride a motorcycle, you can take this pilgrimage, and you're going through it just as much on the trust level as anybody. And so the passengers kind of come in and out at different times throughout the series. And Tiffany, I really love, because it's a really tricky one, the parent thing, and making certain choices for your kids, right? And that fine line of, are you doing something like as a responsible parent to take care of other and dropping your own ego, or are you escaping that what you need to do and kind of blaming the fact that you're a parent? And that sounds a little harsh, but meaning like, oh no, I can't go do that trip because I'm a kid. And Anand is very much like, don't put that on your child. They didn't say to you, you can't do this.
It's so unfair. It
It's
truly is.
it's very unfair, and they'll absorb that. So I really honor Tiffany and her not holding back and coming and taking a journey. And in that moment in episode 4, I think it is, where she starts to like falter back and say like, but I'm a mom, and what am I doing here? And that's perfect, because it's how we think. And I shouldn't do this, because what if I die? My child's left alone. And it's like, well, in some ways you're dying by not following your path and exploring and evolving. Like, what are you going to do? Die a little every day to keep something else safe?
Yeah.
So we just have to be very vigilant. And I don't mean to tell people what to do, but we do have to watch out for these kind of very secretive, it's not the right word, but like subtle stories that mask themselves as, oh, I'm a responsible person, or, I got to make sure I take care of X, Y, Z, when really you're just finding another little escape route from serving up the truth of life.
Yes, absolutely. And so there's no judgment here when we're talking about this stuff. Personally, I did not go I was invited to go all kinds of places.
Yeah.
And as a single mom, I didn't go. I said, I can't. My son's got baseball practice.
Yeah.
You know? And that was my out. That was my little escape route.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to face much. I was living, I wanted him to be in a bubble. And so therefore I had to live in there with him because all I wanted to do was keep him safe. And you know what? I ultimately, he doesn't belong to me. I couldn't keep him safe and he passed 5 years ago. And,
Okay.
yes, it's horrible and grief, and there was a lot of grief. But in moving past that, I understand, I see that, death is destiny. And if you're going to, I mean, and after he passed too, I got a lot of downloads. So if you're moving through life, you have these destiny points. You are not going to die if it's not your time. And
Mm.
I firmly believe that. So and this is something that I knew as a kid, right? A young kid. And then society said, no, that's not true. There's chance and all these things, even though I inherently knew it. We all know, we all have the information in here and we can access it at any time if we choose. And so all of these excuses that we have for not going out and living life and getting to know ourselves, that
Yeah.
blocks us from stepping into our purpose. And and there's so much about that Anon was talking about in the docu series and the Road to Dharma about purpose and the importance of it, and especially from the masculine perspective, which I found fascinating.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? In terms of the masculine perspective on purpose?
Well, he's talking about, like, men have a very difficult time with their self-worth, because he
Mm.
really wasn't talking a lot about
Yeah.
women at this time. He was just talking about men, maybe because he was talking to men and saying,
Right.
really money's kind of the basis of the self-worth, for the
Chapter,
man.
so like episode 8, yeah, yeah. Sex, money, power, fame.
Yeah.
These ideas of where we get false power and feel, I guess you could call that purpose, that we to achieve this power. Not nowadays, what I've loved in terms of purpose, the way of seeing it, and this I've learned from Anand, is that our first purpose is to evolve. Our primary purpose is to evolve as individuals, to grow. Now it can mean a lot of things. It's not predictable what that means, and it takes a lot of forms. But let's make sure, if we approach life or any situation, or finally come back to that realization that, wait, what if I want to use this to evolve? It's a really good primary purpose. Like, it actually is not only on a grander scheme beautiful, but it's functional for pulling you out of triggers and pulling you out of the poor me and our own agendas. It's actually quite functional in the world to think, if I let that be my primary purpose, meaning you don't die and lose all your money if evolution is your primary purpose. You still are, take care of things, right? So Maslow's hierarchy of needs still pertains, but then secondary purpose would be the shifting purpose, as he calls it. What's in front of you at any given time? So regardless if I'm a filmmaker, if someone falls down in the street and I need to pick them up, am I a filmmaker right then? Is that my real purpose? No, my purpose right now is actually help that person, pick them up, etc. Does that make sense? Shifting purpose, whatever the moment is calling of you, and you go, okay, or turning to your friend and being like, that's a story that's going on, or who knows, or just like feeding the bird for a moment. Simple, like shifting purpose, whatever's going on in the moment. And then thirdly, what we a lot of times put a lot of weight on is our societal purpose. What are we here to do and give back?
That's what
But
everybody's mostly focused on. Yes.
all the time, and that, as if I'm not happy until I find that, right? And Dharma can be translated as purpose or duty, but it's more, to me, like more truth and the path to truth. And when you sit in that, meaning as an evolving being, when you sit in your Dharma, in the truth or Sat, then eventually you come to express that truth or who you are in the world. And okay, maybe you're a filmmaker in this way, or maybe you're a nurse, or maybe you do this or whatever. But it's kind of the third. It's not the other way out. You don't start there and then work back.
No.
And that's what I found in my life, but like, it doesn't mean like, okay, I don't know what's going on, or I'm triggered or whatever. I'm poor me. Maybe I should go out and feed homeless. It's like, yes, do that. It'll get you out of you. Go serve. That can definitely shake it up. Absolutely. But people do get super focused on this. What's my reason for being here? And thinking they need to know that before they're happy. I think thinking you need anything before you're happy is misguided. You can be happy for no reason. I do believe that, very much so. And I try to embrace that and watch when my thought is taking me away from my happiness, as if I'm having a cold sore today. I'm not allowed to be happy. Like really small circumstances, and I can't wait till, and it's like, no, don't wait until, just let it happen. The ocean's right there. Jump in, literally. The ocean's right. It's
like right there.
11 blocks, 11 blocks away, which to me is close. So we go a few times a week and jump in that Heavenly Mother and let her just kind of freeze me and push me around.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, gosh, so you're jumping in cold water. Like,
Yeah.
okay, just like the glacier lake. So it wasn't that cold.
Did you see that? You saw the glacier lake? Oh, you look at Instagram? Yeah, no. The ocean is probably here in LA right now, I don't know, 60 degrees maybe.
Okay.
62. The glacier lakes that I was jumping in up in they were probably more like 40 degrees. I don't know, 50, because it's end of summer. It's not too cold. Super cold though. You don't want to stay in long. But the ocean, there's not a lot of people swimming, because in LA, okay, it's 65 degrees and overcast, and it's not perfect. Like, people wear wetsuits. And me and my buddy Henrik, we just go do yoga for 45 minutes at the beach, swim for 15 minutes, ride a wave, and just realize, like, come on, like, this is amazing.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So if you jumped in Glacier Lake, you can definitely go jump in the ocean in LA.
And it's a to be honest, it's a practice. It's not like, oh, I got so good. It's a practice of every time you jump in, of like surrender, because it's freaking cold, and you just have to kind of accept. The more you resist that cold, the worse it is. So you just kind of surrender into it and be like, let the cold happen. And then of course start swimming so your body warms up. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
It's like practical. It's like both things, practical and spiritual. Like, oh, there's a surrender, and there's like, well, if you keep moving, you'll also stay warmer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's like be happy for no reason and still do your laundry.
Still do your laundry. Let's write that. Yeah. Put that down. Be happy for no reason and still do your laundry. Yeah. And while you're at it, like, take the spider outside. Don't just smash it.
No, take it outside.
If you can.
Yeah. If possible. Unless it's really scary and it's chasing you.
That's true. I know. Even the Dalai Lama, he said, if the mosquito bites me 3 times, on the 3rd time, I kill it.
That's it. That's enough.
I like that. He's very, very wise.
So Adam, how did you begin on all of that? Like, how did your spiritual path begin?
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide that you were going to pursue freedom in that way?
Yeah, I don't, freedom has become a big theme of mine, just in general, right? I feel like it's underlying everything I'm thinking about doing after this. Also, I have a lot of projects and thoughts, but it really hit in college. I had a propensity when I was younger. I picked up Gandhi's book in 7th grade, his autobiography, and I remember pouring through it and not going to sleep and just wanting to read this whole thing. Now, I don't know how I got that book. Just, it was in the library. It wasn't assigned. I just came to it. And looking back, I had a lot of smells of India and friends that were Indian in different neighborhoods. So it was kind of around me a lot also. And in age 15 or so, my mom had Chopra's book, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. So this is all the setup. That was physics and spirituality coming together. And I'm a very science-minded guy. I was really good in math. I went to school for engineering and all that. But when I got to college, so that's all the prep. Somebody said, hey, I have a meditation tape. And I was like, yeah. I was just like ready for it, And from then on, meditation, I realized, was just so powerful. And I kept seeking more, So when I did an exchange program in Australia, I found a Buddhist monastery and did a weekend there. When I had chances to read books, or after I played soccer, I played a little bit of pro soccer. I stayed in Thailand and just meditated for a month, with the monks there. I kept seeking more and more, and it was always an underlying theme. And made some big choices, to be honest, like after school, to not necessarily go get the traditional engineering job and instead say, what am I feeling I really would like to do? Now I had to make money still and survive, but I was able to do both. I made a little money, then I went to Ecuador and played soccer, and I learned a language and all this stuff. But underlying it is just a lot of choices, which the practice helps, meditating, I think helps us ultimately listen to our heart and our truth that says, I don't really buy into the system. I knew that pretty much coming out of college. I'm not buying this racket. Everybody's stressed out at the end of college to get a job, like freaking out. And I'm like, especially at this kind of like over smart Ivy League school thing, they think they get it at JP Morgan, this and that. I'm like, like, all right, perspective was gone. People just did not have perspective, right? And that's what people worry about. People committing suicide and stuff because it's over competitive at some of these schools. And I remember my mom saying, "Hey, just enjoy yourself at college, right? Don't freak out, please." So I did. And I learned. I'm jumping around a little bit, but you can get a little feel that it was already getting a base there. Then around 18, I started meditating, and it became part of my practice, and I kept seeking more and more. So Buddhism was more like the central theme, and Buddhist meditation, and eventually improv comedy came into my world. And I found it to be the yoga of comedy. I really did. Like, they ask you, why are you doing this Second City training program? And I said, I can tell this is yoga. This kind of comedy where you have to be on your toes, nothing's planned, you have to drop your ideas, things change. It's all about play. It's not about being funny. I'm like, this is yoga, and they're like, okay, hippie, they're like, whatever. Everyone's out. It's like, I want to be on Saturday Night Live. And so that actually got me into the entertainment world a little bit more, and I was writing a lot. And that was the focus. Was comedy was great, but I was writing a lot of scripts and learning how to write and acting and all that. And that brought me to LA, and I thought I was settling down. And then my teacher I was with was taking people to India, and that's how I met Anand. So within 6 months of coming to LA, moving to LA, I was already in India. And then my practice took like on another level after seeing him a couple of times, and then going back and studying one-on-one with him for 6 weeks, like really one-on-one, just every morning meditating on the Ganga, doing yoga on the beach, and having talks, recording the talks together and writing them down. It was like Karate Kid style, like just really embedding some of this wisdom. Wow. While being in Rishikesh, India. And, it was very impactful time, because that's also when he said, "Hey, do you want to come on a motorcycle trip, over the highest road in the world?" And I just made myself say yes. And even though I was freaking out because I didn't know how to ride a motorcycle. And that was big. That got me into then film documentary, because that was the first documentary I made. I had never had a dream of being a documentary filmmaker. I had never dreamed when I was a kid of being in entertainment at all. I didn't have dreams like that for whatever reason of like what career I would be. But that's like, it's like I get into talking about career because it's like one and the same. I kept following my heart and my Dharma and growing as a person. And that kept leading me into a different part of entertainment that I didn't realize I would be in, which was documentary. And I really loved it. You could still tell stories, but it was real and you meet people. But I always wanted I came from a narrative background. So that's why the highest path and the road to Dharma, they feel more like, real theatrical journeys, so to speak. Like we want you to be engaged in following storylines and characters, and then be like, and this is real, and this is scarier, and this is not a overproduced reality show where we're creating situations. This is an authentic journey that we're allowed to watch. Like we're allowed to be flies on the wall and take the experience. And it's just like, this is what I would want to do. This is what I would want to watch. This is what helps me grow as a person. Is, back to my path, is taking pilgrimage. It really helps me. Kind of as an athlete, I think anything that's intense and pushes you on a physical level and mental level can really show you how to live. Sports did that for me a lot, I think, as a kid. And that's why I lean on pilgrimage. I lean on deep retreats and then daily practice. These are like the two things for me: go deep and then practice, meditate every day, of course, meditate every day, some pranayama at the night, if there's time, and teach. Long answer. That was a very long answer.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. And I love the idea of you saying, like, everything is kind of one and the same. It's not just my career over here and then what I'd like to do over here. You have not fragmented yourself. You have always followed your heart, and your heart has led you through these experiences that includes your career. So you don't have to choose to split yourself in half and
Right.
do the things that you have to do versus what you want. And so, that is profound. And that's something that I really want people to understand what I'm talking about right now here. What Adam just said is that you don't have to split yourself in two in
Right.
order to live the life that you want to live. You can follow your heart, and it will take you down the path, but you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone and outside of that box and into the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. And follow your heart. Like you said, to trust that your evolution is important. If you know it is, right? Your intuition's pulling you somewhere, even if you don't know where it leads, like to be okay with that mystery and surrender has become, I guess, a practice of my life now. It's not that strange to not necessarily know what will be happening 3 months from now. It's This is kind of life. And if you look around the world, not everybody has it as structured as here in America and knows where they're going to be, et cetera. And maybe the pandemic is teaching us that a little bit more too, to surrender into the mystery and maybe follow our trust, our intuition a little more.
Yeah, I love that. And really that's what it does feel like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's so much fear around the pandemic. And there's a lot of fear in regards to and anger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lower level vibrational emotions attached to what is going on today. So we've got, this anger, and then we've got the election, and then we've got the pandemic. There's so much going on that it's really kind of, you know, freaking people out. And so, what would you say to those people who want to experience oneness or want to know what that is and feel it really in their heart and their soul
Yeah.
while living in the midst of all of this?
Yeah. The oneness is always occurring amidst everything anyway. It's it's not really amidst this. It's just this is also what's happening. But I get the question of from people, that same thing. Well, how is it we feel oneness when things are difficult or so much is going on, or you're on a motorcycle and things are coming at you? And it's like it's almost sometimes uh, the catalyst that helps you feel oneness when things are so intense. You really have to be super present, and you really have to go, oh my God, there's so much fear. I transcend now. Or like I said, on the motorcycle with Anand, either I die stressed or I surrender and be free. So there is a beauty of things being a little crazy because it forces you to make that decision. Whereas the daily life stuff isn't always like that. The stakes aren't that high, and you can, escape subtly and not have to work on it. If things are up, what I'm trying to say is it's a really nice kind of opportunity because things are going to be easier to see, like when you're in fear or not. It's really going to be there, and then you get to make that choice. I talk about in the course, um, in chapter, oh gosh, I don't know what it is, in the online course that goes with the series,
Mhm.
that, I was broke. I had a knee injury. I had just broken up with a girlfriend, didn't have a place to live, was totally broke, in debt. And it's like there was no outward reason to be happy or at ease. And I made it my mission to wake up every day and be happy and at ease, meaning not to put my self identity in those columns, of worth, be it money, be it place to live, etc. There is another source for self-worth, and to actually just have to practice that for a year or for 2 months. So that's what I would say is this is a huge opportunity to shift where we source our identity and where we source self-worth, and to somewhere else. Now, to the fact that we are alive and we are connected and we are one. To me, that'll start to bring in this feeling of oneness, if you will, or connected or taken care of, or happiness or joy. Joy, I think, is normal, like we are joyful, which usually feel is connected, right?
Right.
A feeling of connected to other things, not so separate, not so afraid, is like, then joy is already there. Like oneness is there. The question is, are we slipping out of it into fear and such? So I think nowadays you actually have a great opportunity because you can see the dichotomy easier. So I think it's awesome. And it is totally a practice. Meditate in the morning. You have to like weed through some of the thoughts and normal stuff and clear out people that are still on you, so to speak, or thoughts that are still on you from the day before, so that we can see with a little bit clearer eyes how happy we really are. And then that third thing I said is just source. If you can look, if you're centered enough where you can actually inquire, like, where am I sourcing identity? And you'll see where you falsely are.
Right.
And when you do that, the oneness or the connectivity comes in. Like, you don't have to go be connected, like it's coming. If you can just maybe step away from the BS patterns that we normally get caught in, then, like, to me, it's like in the left. That's why I keep going here. It's always like on my left side. I don't know why. Oneness is on the left. That's my advice.
I resonate with that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also kind of silly too to be like, where's oneness? How do you get oneness? It's on the left.
It's on the left.
It's on the left. But, as if it would be that easy of an answer. No, it's just on the left. Just let it in here. But it kind of is. It kind of is for me. It's like, let the oneness in here and like wash the brain, other part of the brain aside. Just kind of let it wash over. If that makes sense to you, fantastic.
Great.
We're friends.
Yeah, it's I love that though. Seriously, it's like there's nothing you have to do. We are one.
Yeah.
We don't have to do. We can be, right, and we can get we don't have to go looking for joy or happiness. It's already within. Just to allow ourselves to be there, right?
And there are practices that help us remember that.
Yes.
Meditation, pranayamas, etc., and awareness. Absolutely. So we're not hippy dippy, like just there's no technique. Yeah, there's technique.
Yeah, there are things that you can actually do with your body.
Yeah, to help you remember that it's natural. It's fun.
Yeah. Cool.
What I do tell people, like, kind of like oneness. Here's an analogy I use, like with meditation. I say, you don't teach someone how to go soccer or how to go basketball. You teach them a layers of techniques, and then soccer starts to happen, basketball starts to happen, because it's so complex. Especially soccer is very complex.
Yeah.
You just teach techniques and awareness, and then when everyone does it together, it starts to become this thing called soccer. I'd say the same for oneness. Here's some techniques and practices, and then what starts to happen is a feeling of oneness and connectedness. That's to me a good way of getting people out of also thinking, oh, meditation is supposed to feel a certain way. No, just do the practice. Meditation occurs. It occurs. The emptiness, so to speak, which is really empty of separation. So it's actually the thing you're talking about, connection. It's not empty. This just occurs, right? People think emptiness, the Buddha said, be empty. You'll drive yourself nuts trying to be empty. You're full of life. You are so full of life. You're not empty. He meant empty of separation. That is all he meant. Empty of separation, which is what you're talking about, oneness, connection. So if we can kind of find out where we're feeling separated and drop that, then this other thing happens.
Yes. Well said. Thank
you.
Yeah. So, okay. So are you working on anything right now that you'd like to share?
That I would love to share, but one of them I can't talk about. It's a little dangerous, which I like, as you can imagine. It's a little dangerous on a couple levels, be it, both physical and government and a lot of different stuff. It's a cool topic, and you wouldn't think that consciousness would have its way in there, but the underbelly is to talk about how people escape all the time, and how to take responsibility for our lives versus escapism. So that's a cool, I'm pitching it both as a series and a feature doc. It can go as both. The Road to Dharma and the course has been, the real focus. It's just amazing. And then there's always some other projects floating, but those are that's the ones that are up right now.
Those are the big things right now. Yeah. I want to let everybody know that the Road to Dharma, you have to watch it. You have to. And so I got it. Actually, I got it off your site and bought your program too.
Very cool.
So it's amazing. And you can get it on Amazon Prime too, right?
Yeah, you can buy the series on iTunes, Amazon Prime. If you come to roadtodharma.com, you can we'll give you 3 episodes free as part of the course that you're talking about. You put your email in, you can get 3 episodes. You can read 3 chapters, 3 meditations. All that's free, so you can see, oh, this is what the course is all about. This is what the series is all about. And if you want to take the course at that point, you can. Or if you want to just go buy the rest of the series on iTunes and or Amazon or YouTube, you can buy it there for like $10.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Adam, thank you. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. And it's so wonderful to hear the back story of everything that you've been doing. And and I honor your journey and I admire your courageousness. And thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your audience and what you're doing for them, and the courage that you've been obviously going through for the last 5 years. Also, after that experience, that's amazing to me. So I honor you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care.